Welcome to an introduction to computer science with Python. This is the first lecture about the print statement, and by the end of this lecture, you will be familiar with some parts of it. First of all, what is computer science? In computer science, you give a computer instructions, and no matter how advanced it is, how simple it is, how good it is, how bad it is, all computer science, you give a computer instructions. And you'll find computer science in things like websites, apps, phones, cars, laptops, cash registers. Anything with a screen probably has computer science in it. And although computer science also extends to things that don't have screens, but usually if a thing has a screen, computer science was used to make it. That being said, how do we give the computer directions? To give a computer directions, you type out code. The computer takes that code and transforms it into directions that it performs. Code comes in many forms called languages, but the one I'll be teaching is called Python. It's simple and it's great for beginners because it develops logic that can be used for other things. To get started, we'll be coding on a website, and this website is called repl.it, repl.it. You should see something like this. Press the sign up button here in the corner, and you can now sign up with your username, email, and password. Or if you have a Google account, it's actually much easier to press this G logo, click your email, and then you're signed in and you don't even need a password. Next, you want to click New REPL. Under Languages, find the language Python, which is right here. Be careful because Python 2.7 is a bit different than Python, because Python 2.7 is an earlier version. There are different rules, so you want to be particularly careful that you choose Python. It'll give you a username for your REPL. I'll just leave it as is. And then when you create the REPL, you should get something like this. And it gives you the file names, the place where you type stuff, and this dark screen. If you have this set up, you're good to go, and we can move on to the next step. Now, the first thing that you learn in most languages is the print statement. And now that we're all ready to go, it's time to move on. So we type print, all lowercase, open parentheses, which can be done with Shift 9, open double quotes, which can be done with Shift quotation mark. The quotation mark is the key that's right next to the Enter key or the Return key. And then Hello World. When you're done with that, you want to make sure to close off the quotation mark using the same key, which is Shift quotation mark. And then you want to close off the parentheses with Shift 0. When you're done with that, it should look like this. Print should be colored, mine is purple, and Hello World in quotes should be red for me. For you, it might be slightly different, but these and these should both be colored and not black. When you press run in the top bar, you get Hello World. This is what we want to see. If you see something different, please look carefully back at this and make sure you have copied it correctly. Now, what's going on here? Print is a special word in Python. When the computer sees the word print, it knows whatever is inside the parentheses, in this case hello world, should be displayed. So in this case, what you see here is print. The computer knows, hey, everything inside here has to be printed out over here. And that's what it does. It prints out the words hello world. Since the print statement is the first thing you learn, it's also one of the most important. If you don't fully understand it, then it can pose a lot of problems later on. So it's very important that you understand how to use a print statement, all the ins and outs of it. Now we move on to something called data types. And data types are types of messages that you can put into a print statement. There are two data types that you should know to start, which are str and int. Other important data types will be introduced later. Str, right here, is shorthand for string. And a string is anything inside double quotation marks, which look like this. Examples include hi, Josh, and 393294850. int, I'll be pronouncing it as int, is shorthand for an integer. For those that don't know in math, an integer is any number that does not have a decimal. So examples include 3, 48, -72, and 2147483647. A big difference between int and string is that obviously int can only hold numbers and string can also hold letters. But another difference is that anything that is an int, you might notice, does not have quotation marks around it. Quotation marks are a sign that it's a string, but if it doesn't have quotation marks, then it's an int. Another important thing to note is that if you have a group of letters or a mix of letters and numbers, then they should probably be inside a string, be inside quotation marks if you want to print it out. Why it needs quotation marks and why some don't will be important later, and you'll be able to understand then. But for now, just know strings, quotation marks, ints, no quotation marks. Strings can hold letters and numbers, but ints can only hold numbers. But what if you tried print, open parentheses, open quotation mark, hello world, and you did not finish the quotation and you move straight to the end of the parentheses? Let's try that. So print, open parentheses, open quotation mark, hello world, and then you didn't finish the quotation mark. You'd see something like this, and it doesn't seem like this parentheses is black. This parentheses is, but this one isn't. Let's see what happens. So let's click this green run button, and then you have a problem. It says there's a syntax error. Now what syntax errors are is that they are basically saying, hey, you typed something incorrectly and you have to fix it for the program or code to work. So right now it doesn't work because you didn't finish the quotation mark, and therefore the computer doesn't know how to deal with that. So so it just raises an error, and errors are bad because they stop the code from working. So in order to have this to work, you have to press closing quotation marks and then also finish off the parentheses. And now, ideally, it should work. And it does. It prints out hello world, no errors, no problems. Everything's happy. We can also sort of do different things with strings. For example, what if we added two strings together? We've got two strings here, hello in quotation marks and world in quotation marks, and we added them together. So print open parentheses in quotation marks hello, press the plus sign, which is shift equals, you'll find it next to the delete key, and then also in quotation marks world. Now would the output look like this, or would it be something different? Well, let's see. It looks like it's hello world, but there's no space. Interesting. Why is that? Well, if you look at these two strings, you've got hello and you've got world. In both strings, you don't see any space. So when the computer takes these two strings and adds them together, what it does is that it sort of puts them together like two puzzle pieces. There's nothing in between the puzzle pieces. So there's no space between the puzzle pieces. So it prints out hello world with no spaces. Now, what if you did want a space? If you wanted a space, you would take world and add a space in front of it. It looks a bit weird, but that's how you would do it. And if I run this, you see that it prints out world, hello world. And the other way is, on a similar note, you can add a space to the end of hello. Personally, I like this way better. It makes more sense to me, but whatever method works for you is great. And this also prints out hello world, as you can see. And it's important to note that the addition sign is the only math sign that you can use on strings. So if you try to subtract strings using the minus sign, you'll see that it doesn't work, because what this basically says is that, hey, you can't take a string and somehow subtract a string from it. So that's important to note. And similarly with times, by the way, times can be done with a asterisk, and you can type that in using Shift 8. And what if you wanted to divide two strings by each other? Well, you would divide by using a slash. You'll find the slash key right next to the right shift key, but a slash in coding means to divide, and an asterisk in coding means to multiply. Those are two sort of different things that you get from math, but they share similar ideas. Similarly, when you have a slash sign meaning to divide, you get this. This also says you can't take a string and divide a string and expect it to work. Now going back to adding strings together, you got hello, and you have world. This will give no space in between, by the way, but you can add more. You can keep going. Hello world, my name is Ben, so Ben. And your name might be Sophie, so Sophie. And this will still work. You will get hello world, Ben, Sophie. And it didn't produce an error. This is good. But yeah, this is how addition with strings works. You can, similar in math where you can have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 forever. You can have hello plus world plus Ben and whatever. So that is how you add strings together. You can also have strings be very long and very short. So if you wanted to type hello world in a longer form, you can say H plus E plus L plus L plus O plus space plus world. I don't see why you would do this, but you can totally do it if you want. This will not raise an error because you're just adding strings together until you get hello world. See, it prints hello world just fine. Even though how you type it is different than these, it still produces the same output. That's all I have to say for now on the print statement. Thanks for listening, and I hope you attend the second lecture.